Welcome to Mideast News Service, and welcome to Jerusalem. I'm Phelps Hawkins, senior editor of MNS, and your guide to an exploration of connections. Connections between the heartland of America and the holy lands of the Middle East. But our approach to this contentious region is going to be different, and we hope much better. We all know about the violence from both sides of the conflict. What we don't know so much about is the people, the lives they try to lead, the work they do, the fears they feel, and the hopes that wane. So we came here to tell you stories about history, 5,000 years of it, about politics, Israel style, but mainly about people. Quite different at first glance, different languages, different money, different habits, but maybe not so different. Watch, learn, and decide for yourself. The Holy Land is a land of contrasts, like many regions around the world, where old and new, modern cities and ancient sites coexist. But Israel is unusual in the vehemence and violence of the dispute over the land itself, a dispute that rages today, that costs lives, causes misery and fear, and has defied solution.
We will not overcome differences in this city. The city is a celebration of differences, whether we're talking about different Christian groups, or different Jewish groups, different Muslim groups, or the three of them. It's a city of vast differences.
Israel will be the third, along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth. The Lord Almighty will bless them, saying, "Blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance."
This is a country which does not belong to one religion alone. It belongs to three religions, and they all have to live here. They all have to share this small piece of land.
70% of the Israelis say, fight the Arabs as much as you can, don't give up to terror. Yes. But 70% say, but please, we beg you, O government, move on with the peace process, even if we have to pay a very painful compromise because we want to reach peace. Both nations are fatigued from the bloodshed in our area.
Living in a constant state of threat takes energy, and you have to sort of reorganize yourself and become aware of how it affects you and how you choose to let it affect you.
A few of the many voices we heard during our inaugural 10-day trip to Israel, a first step in the Mideast News Service effort to bring voices of the Middle East to Middle America and beyond. You'll hear more from them and others, much more, not just TV sound bites. Real people talking with passion, not just the political usual suspects.
My kids, I have to worry about them. One of them is entering the university within a year and 3 months. My daughter has to be at the university. So she asked me that question. Dad, I'm an Arab. If I want to go for medical school here, how hard do you think I'll get to medical school in this country?
Zero.
Zero.
American students that came here, if they come and do a course here, they will also become exposed to our reality of what's going on here, and they'll realize that it's not quite like what they see in the television.
Down in the city square of Tiberias, do they know about Tulsa in America?
Most of them, of course, because there is, the whole idea between the Israelis and the American people that we are bound together. The friendship is long from the beginning of the State of Israel.
It's a country not quite as large as New Jersey, a democracy, but with no constitution, a place of cultural and technological achievement, yet a place that receives more U.S. foreign aid than any other country. Still, you'll recognize the stories, even if the suburb is outside Tel Aviv. And a University of Kansas graduate plays for the Israeli Women's League Championship.
Okay. افتح تومك.
Or a young Arab cancer patient from Bethlehem.
Okay, he's fine. He's doing very well.
Winning against a formidable foe in a hospital that turns away nobody. Palestinian or Israeli, rich or poor.
How long have you been playing?
3 weeks.
Or the first brave notes on the road to Carnegie Hall.
Good.
Over the next several months, we're going to bring you a new story every week. But after that, we're heading back to the Middle East for more stories about people, their lives, their dreams. Of course, it's different over there from here in hometown America, but among the differences there are similarities, maybe even in the dreams. I'm Phelps Hawkins for Mideast News Service.
It's hard to be optimistic today, although I do hope that the Americans will roll up their sleeves and do their work since they are pledged to forward the so-called roadmap. Yeah. But my hope is more in the lies in the fact that we all know what the solution will be. Give and take a kilometer here and a community there. We know that we'll have to retreat from the occupied territories almost totally. I think it's something like 5 to 6% of the territory will be kept, so we can allow to minimize the number of uprooting of Israelis to, say, only something like 20%. That is a possibility. I think that we have to share Jerusalem, etc., etc. We know the solution. Everybody knows it. And I think by now people got used to the thought they cannot overcome the basic idea that you cannot start to allow this to happen unless you have a full security that the other side will abide by the rules of the new game, namely the game of peace. And as long as there is violence on the one side and violence on the other side, it's very difficult to get to it. We can discuss the question whether we should wait until there or not. I don't think we should have to wait until violence is over, but there are other ways of approaching it. But psychologically, I'm with all the other people on both sides again, who need to retrieve the faith in the other side. That the other side really means to conclude the conflict. And that's not the right time now for that, because violence continues all the time. I belong to the peace movement, so therefore I'm not objective. I mean, we of course believe in peace, and we know that peace can be achieved. But I think that the general public, not the extreme side, but the mainstream, certainly yearns for peace. I mean, people are tired, and the Palestinians even more so. Those suicide bombing and all these news, I think people would like to see that end. Moreover, I think that they realize that Sharon will have to give them more than he now thinks he'll have to give them. I think that they think that not immediately, but not too far away, they at least tend to want to believe that peace is possible and may come about. Peace is being mentioned almost every day by the speeches of Sharon and his company. But every intelligent listener knows it's a ritual. The common sense of people, not only on our side, but on their side, is that this is not on the agenda at the moment. Yes, peace is a messianic dream one day, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years, maybe in 100 years. But as something realistic in terms of the coming few months, it's not on the table. What is on the table is to try to crush the violent elements within the Palestinian camp, to somehow do away, again, not totally, but to a large degree, with the Palestinian terror, and therefore we'll be able to continue to live in the condition that we are, and the Palestinians will realize that the only thing they can achieve is what Sharon offers them. I don't believe that history goes this way. When I think of my own childhood, I was born here. My own childhood, I mean, we were poor, there were no roads, there were hardly any Look at Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv looks like Manhattan now. So the dream to create a Jewish state, which is a vibrant, throbbing country, is here. We have achieved it. And we're going to do better in it, because if we are now one of the, I think number 4, we are counted number 4 in high tech in the world. It's something. It's a great achievement. And there's an achievement in Israeli films, I mentioned before, poetry, literature, very good stuff coming out every year, every week here. I'm receiving the New York Review of Books. We have our own review of books. And I'm quite proud to tell you that not as much as in America, of course, but we have our own steady pace of creativity in this country. So in this respect, 48 came to be. It succeeded despite all the hardships. What happened to me and others of my generation, during the period 48 until 67, it was clear that the struggle is on the very existence of a Jewish state, or the right and the possibility of maintaining a Jewish state. We were on the defensive, not so much in terms of our operative behavior, because we were aggressive, that's the way one should be in order to win a war, but morally, I mean, politically and morally, we were defending our right, our basic right to maintain a Jewish state, and the boundaries, the borders, which really amounted to a partition of the country between us and that time the Jordanian, but the Jordanians represented the Palestinians at that time. After 67, the whole situation changed, because we have occupied the rest of the country. And there came the time in which the division between peaceniks and non-peaceniks came about, because some of the Israelis fell in love with the land. You have to remember that the land that we occupy in 67 is really the land of the Bible, because the Bible occurred on the hillside of the country, in Jerusalem, in Nablus, in Hebron. Where I was born, near Tel Aviv, were the Philistines in ancient time. That was not Judea, that was not the country of the Jews. And all of a sudden we are there in the cradle of our own civilization. So many people, because of the Bible, because of these historical memories, fell in love with it and started to settle the area and started to fight against any concession in terms of leaving those territories. At which time we, on the Israeli side of peace, thought that that's a great mistake, because that's an opportunity for us to give them back the territory and achieve a compromise and a peace. Despite the atrocities and the very sad and cruel happening on both sides, life goes on both sides. Less so on the Palestinian side, because they are under much harder conditions than we are. And here on our side, I mean, there was a suicide bomb in Netanya, where we have friends. We called them up, found that they were not hit. And then we went to the swimming pool. In the evening, we went to a concert. When we meet each other, we discover that the other side is also a human being. Now, I'm a strange case, because my daughter is married to a Palestinian Israeli. That is, he's an Israeli citizen from Nazareth, but he's a Muslim Palestinian. So my grandchildren, I've got a girl and a boy, are on both sides. And they like their families on both sides, and they fully identify themselves with both sides. We are closer than we were ever, because the fact that an Israeli prime minister offered the Palestinians a great compromise in Camp David a few years ago is important, not in the way he handled it. He mishandled it, and Arafat made a fool of himself by his reactions. But that's not the point. The point is that the Israelis, all of a sudden, the Palestinians heard, these are the parameters. We, as I said before, we know where we have to come in order to make a compromise. That was never here. That's a novelty in our conflict. But it's, as I said, 3 days after a suicide bomb that blasted the center of Netanya on the coast, it's difficult to be optimistic. I still stick to it.
Violence continues to rule in Palestine.
The road to modern-day Israel has been a long and bumpy one. and there's little reason to believe the new roadmap to peace will not be the same.
3 policemen were blown to bits when they tried to remove an explosive-laden truck.
For many Americans, Israel is a place of violence, dispute, and distrust. It's what they see on the nightly news. And older Americans well remember that the state of Israel started out in much the same way, only half a century ago. At that time, captured more romantically in a famous film.
How can we ask the United Nations for a just decision if we keep on blowing up things like a bunch of anarchists?
Justice itself is an abstraction, completely devoid of reality. Secondly, to speak of justice and Jews in the same breath is a logical absurdity. Thirdly, one can argue the justice of Arab claims on Palestine just as one can argue the justice of Jewish claims.
Scores of Jewish leaders are jailed.
And back then, the main enemy was Britain, which had ruled Palestine since 1920. Now, the enemy may be history itself.
His Majesty's government, having no desire to witness needless suffering, grants permission for the Olympia to sail to Palestine.
May 15, 1948, the British left the new State of Israel to Jewish jubilation. Palestinians call that day Al-Nakba, the catastrophe. The United Nations partition plan called for 56% of the land to go to Israel and 44% to the new Arab state. Jerusalem would be an international zone. It didn't happen, as 5 Arab armies attacked Israel unsuccessfully. A year later, an armistice was worked out, but this time, Israel got 77% of the territory. Jordan got East Jerusalem and the West Bank, and Egypt got the Gaza Strip. Then came 1967 and the dramatic Six-Day War. Israel took the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza from Egypt, the West Bank from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. The Sinai was returned to Egypt in 1979. In today's West Bank, Israeli settlements sprinkle the landscape, often occupying hilltops. Some 160 security checkpoints allow the Israeli army control over access to towns throughout the West Bank. This is the main checkpoint into the town of Bethlehem. Residents cannot freely come and go. I could enter on my American passport, but my Israeli TV crew could not. Now, the roadmap for peace, proposed by the U.S., Russia, the United Nations, and the European Union, faces 2 deeply entrenched sides, and trapped in the middle, some 9 million people, Israeli and Palestinian, Muslim, Christian, and Jew, tired and frustrated.
What we need really is a decision by the Israelis and the Palestinians. On the Israeli side, they have to decide, we have rights here. We are not earning only privileges from the Israelis. The minute they realize we have rights, the minute we also admit the Israelis have rights here, then we can make a new process. But coming with a roadmap and, so many people got lost in roads, and so many people, they never find the place where they're going because their map is not clear. And I would like to see the Americans coming out with a definite plan.
This is very small here. It's a small area. 2 conflicting national movements hitting one against the other. We have our natural rights as the Jewish people to be here and have our own state. All that is correct. Nonetheless, there is a problem, a political problem with the Palestinian minority in the territories, and there is a general acceptance worldwide and in Israel that there has to be a Palestinian state so that they will have their own self-determination as they deem it fit. The prerequisite for that is peace and no terror.
My dream always is to have one state where Jews, Christians, and Muslims can live freely in this state. Then we can share everything. But this is a dream which I don't see it happening, not in the near future. someone again finds an alternative. An alternative will be a Palestinian state and an Israeli state. But they have to learn how to share, not how to possess.
Just a year ago, on the eve of Passover, as we were sitting down and praying to God in the Seder night, a suicidal bomber went into a hotel and blew up amidst families, children, even Holocaust survivors who were there with their grandchildren. They all perished. We have to block it. It's a very small strip of land people walk in. So we have to put blockades and so on. Then the suffering of the regular civilian innocent community accumulates, and it's a vicious cycle that has to be ended.
Still, the cycle continues. The Israeli army taking aggressive action to stem terrorist attacks, and Palestinian suicide bombers continue to take their toll. The pain doesn't choose sides. I'm Phelps Hawkins for Mideast News Service. Surprises abound in Israel. Yep, this is Israel. Skiing continues into May on Mount Hermon. And in the valley below, kayaking and rafting are especially popular after an unusually wet winter. A broad spectrum of sports are popular in Israel. Like much of the world, soccer is most popular. So much so that you can even visit a computerized game.
That's it. Game started.
Though, to be safe, this one always ends in a 1-1 tie. And the number 2 sport in Israel? Meet Jackie Johnson, former University of Kansas standout, now pumping in 20 points a game for the Ramle Israel team. This is the 3rd game in a best-of-5 series for the Israel Women's League Championship. Ramle played well. Jackie's roommate Amber Hall from Canada controlled the boards, and they won going away.
The team we're playing now, they were on TV talking about, yeah, we're going to win 3-0, we're going to beat them, sweep. You know, this last game was the real competition, yada, yada. We were like, oh, really? That's how you feel about us. So, you know, now we're up 2-1, and we don't really talk too much trash, but we just let our game speak for itself.
Ramle is a working-class city, about 12 miles southeast of Tel Aviv. And as in America, the locals love their home team. So how is it different playing basketball in Israel instead of America?
Here, more is expected of me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I have to play a much bigger role here than I do back home. I'm more of a role player there, and which I love being.
Which means what?
Actually, let's go in here.
Okay.
Here, like, I have to shoot a lot more. I have to make, pass a lot more. The ball's in my hands a lot more. Where back home, I'm just expected to rebound and play good defense, and that's enough.
Oh, but here you're a star.
I guess if you want to call it that. I wouldn't call it that.
Oh, really? With all those people coming to?
They're nice people. Nice people, that's all.
After college and a frustrating year with the professional WNBA, Jackie heard about Israel from her agent.
My first thought was no. Definitely no. I was like, what's in Israel? Like, because on TV all you see is like people throwing rocks at tanks. Really? Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going to play there. I'm not going to like it. Don't send me there. But when I got here, I was really surprised. And, I was like, okay, the weather's good. I love that. The people are nice. They speak English, which is very important to me.
Are you scared here? Do you get a sense of nervousness?
No, not at all. For a while, it was a little bit tense because, you know, my family's calling me, talking about, you gotta leave, and I'm like, why? They're like, oh, you know, on TV they're showing this, that, and the other, and I'm like, for real? Well, I don't know what's going on. So, you know, what they put on TV is not anything like what it is, really. Because I can go and sit out on the beach all day today and not know that we were actually in the middle of a
You don't have a gas mask with you?
No, I don't. I
You
don't.
own one?
Nope.
What are your former teammates in Kansas when they know that you're over here in Israel playing? What do they think?
You know, of course they're like, oh my gosh, don't get blown up. That's the first thing everybody says.
Really?
Don't get blown up.
And you've told them that's fine.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to get blown up, thank you. But it's really, you know, they're like, ooh, bring me back a I Love Israel t-shirt or something. I think I'm probably a 2 or a 3 for sure. Come on, I need a man's opinion here. What is it? White, definitely. White is a staple color.
We followed Jackie to one of Tel Aviv's swankier malls.
You don't have none in the back?
She's used to standing out in a crowd and taking charge, just like on the court. So, family gonna come over, do you think?
Maybe my grandmother, take her to Jerusalem.
She'd like that, you think?
She'd love it. She'd love it. I mean, I went this year and it was kind of surreal because, I mean, you're standing at Jesus' tomb, you know, or you're walking and in Jerusalem, which is the walls are up, and you know everything that you read about in the Bible is there. So to really see that, it was really, really cool. I mean, your arms gotta be tired. No? I know it's light, but still, just holding my arms up here gets kind of tiring. Thanks.
What will you do next? Do basketball as long as you can? And
well, no, not as long as I can, as long as it's still fun to me, you know. Playing overseas is hard though, because you're away from everybody. And when you're by yourself, you know, you kind of long for being around your family and friends and all that, you know. So I don't know how much longer I'll do overseas ball, but maybe I'd like to get into it on a coaching level or even production of something. I don't know.
A little TV?
Maybe, possibly. I like producing stuff. I like being behind the scenes more. Even interviewing is good for me because it's fun.
For Jackie Johnson, it's a rich experience, even though her team narrowly lost the championship. For the moment, she's home in LA with family and friends, as her agent tries to negotiate an even better contract for next season. And back in Israel, friends and fans are hoping for the best. For the Mideast News Service, this is Phelps Hawkins.